It is really good to be here with all of you today. Um, welcome back to the Nature Journal Educators Forum. My name is Yvea Moore. I am here on behalf of John Muir Laws, who is currently in Africa, in Tanzania. Um, Usually we are also joined by my fellow co-host Billy Joe Reed, but she is also in Tanzania as of now with Jack. And so this will be the last Educators Forum of the summer. And then our next one will be at the end of August when Jack and Billy Joe have returned. Jim will be leading that one. And I'm very excited about that. That will be on the last, the last Wednesday of August. And then after that, we'll be having the week after that, we'll be having Melian as our guest, which is going to be super exciting. And then the week after that, we'll be doing something called the Cold Open, which is a topic that Kate Rudder came up with that's about like how we introduce ourselves to people when we're teaching. And then after that will be Wild Wonder and everything will be chaos. So that's our plan until the chaos. Um, Today we are meeting to on a bit of a lighter note. Um, we will be sharing books. So everybody will just, we understand that maybe we can't get all of the books today because anytime the books come out, then the wallet goes ouch. And so we'll just, we're just going to share what books we have. Um, I was thinking it'd be good to share any books that help you as an educator. And then from there, we can go on and get further out into other topics, nature journaling in general, or topics that have come up with nature journaling, or just whatever, kind of comes to us. Um, it's really good to see all of you today. Okay, so before we get started on sharing, I just thought I'd start with a couple of very big basics that we all know about. We already know this one. This is the book about how to teach nature journaling. It's free online, so folks know. You can download it on either the Wild Wonder website or on Jack's website. Sorry, not Amy. Emily Lygren. Emily Lygren has a website as well where she has or had, last I checked, videos and some demonstrations about how to do some of the activities. So I can try to get that for folks as well, because I find it sometimes more helpful to be able to see how it's done instead of just reading it. And so Emily has done that. A couple of other, you know, basic books that we talk about a lot. Of course, we got this one, The Law's Guide to Nature Drawing and Journaling. And it's not, and it has a lot about drawing in it, but it also has other things like it has, little curiosity kit, biometrics, that kind of thing. Some of the things might appear in How to Teach Nature Journaling as well. I'm not sure. But it's a bunch of different things that's about drawing and also about, beyond drawing as well. So there's this book right here. Two other books I will share quickly before I pass the mic are Keeping a Nature Journal by Claire Walker Leslie. Because, and I mention her because she's one of the really big leaders of the nature journal community and has kind of made that term the one that we all use. And so this one might be good, like if we're a teacher who's trying to like make sure that we have some basics about what nature journaling can be like, then this is a really, really good book for ourselves. And her style is also very gentle and approachable, which I really love about it. Um, and so, yeah. And then one other book by her, and then I'm going to pass the mic, is this one that I only just found out about not long ago. Haven't gotten to read it yet, but I love that it's specifically called The Nature Connection, and it's an outdoor workbook for kids, families, and classrooms. So Claire Walker Leslie has a book here that is specifically about, about for your kids going out. And so there's a ton of really fun activities in here, like learning how to read clouds, honoring the sun, um, animals at night, with prompts on each of them. So this one could be draw or paste pictures of nocturnal animals in your area. Let's see here. Why does the moon change its shape? You have the idea. Groundhog and its shadow. So, and it looks like it is done by year, or sorry, not by year, by season, which is really awesome. So yeah, I just wanted to recommend this one as well because it seems to be written specifically for being outside with kids. Um, and so I'm gonna pass the mic though. Later on, I'll share some more books, but who would like to share some books next? And what we'd love to hear is that, especially if they're specifically for educators, could you say sort of who the audience is for the book? That might be helpful too. Anybody want to share? I know everybody's got books. Okay, I saw two hands. How about Star and then Ramona? Would that be okay? All right.
Sure. I've got lots of books. But this is certainly one of my favorites, and it's by a young man who's autistic. And so there's an important part of your audience. I would say anybody who is autistic or is educating, which is almost everybody, all educators now, um, I think, have to be aware of these needs. And it's such a wonderful book. He lives in Northern Ireland, and I don't know if I'm going to remember. I've read it a while ago, but it remains a favorite book of mine. So he talks about his experience in nature, but it also, I think it taught me so much about autism and how not to see it as limitations, but to see it differently. And it's really powerful. His whole family, his mother, his, I think, two other siblings or three other siblings are all autistic, just the father is not. And they lead the most amazing life. And he started a blog when he was 13, and somebody suggested that he do this book. And I think it's written like when he's 13, 14 years old, and it's just wonderful. So that's one that I strongly suggest.
Awesome. And that is by Dara McAnulty.
I'm sorry, Yvea?
And that's a Diary of a Young Naturalist by Dara McAnulty.
Yes.
Perfect. That looks
I
awesome.
think it's just McNulty, yeah. So this is a very different book, but I also really love this book. And it's a book on the life of Beatrice Potter by Linda Lear. And it really, I don't know who recommended it to me, but I thought, oh, I just thought of her books for children and not much else. But she really was quite an amazing woman for her time, and a very early conservationist. And if you want to, and she did scientific research with mice and fungi and all kinds of interesting things for a woman of her time. She was pretty extraordinary. So it really, for me, it was an education in her life and also in those times and what it meant to be a woman and to be interested in science. It's a very enjoyable read, excellent writer. And I noticed this wasn't on the list that I did look at, which we have of favorite books, and it's Robin Wall Kimmerer's, but it's Gathering Moss. And so this is her first book, and it's a delight. So I think anybody interested in nature journaling would love this book. And I think she does some of the drawings, but her dad does some of the drawings, which is, kind of neat too. So that's another, it's a short book. It's 162 pages, but the world of moss really opens up in it. It's really, and she has a new book coming out in November. So something to celebrate. I'll let somebody else talk. I have more books, but I'll let somebody else share.
Thank you, Star. It is cool to see all of those books. And yeah, I've heard good things about Gathering Moss as well from Melinda Nakagawa. So that's definitely one to look at for folks who like Robin Wall Kimmerer. Cool. Thank you. I think Ramona, you were next, right?
Yeah. So I'll just start with the same one, The Lost Art of Reading Nature Signs. So for those of you who don't know, basically he gives you all these clues for how to understand like which direction you're walking in, north, south, east, west, also the weather patterns, and it's really cool. I'll just see if there's a nice diagram page. So this page is about like noticing vines growing on trees, and depending like which way they're growing, which like up or down, which side of the tree, if they're traveling around to the back, kind of tells you the direction. And yeah, it's dense. So I got it from the library ages ago, got a certain way, stopped, then have come back to it. And I'm trying to take a bunch of notes in my journal so I can kind of remember these things because there's a lot. And he's got a ton of other books as well. So that's my first one. Then I have this one by Julia Rothman. It's called Nature Anatomy. So beautiful. Like the illustrations in it are insane. I'll just show you. Cool. So it's very, it just sort of touches on a lot of things. It doesn't really deep dive into too much, but it's just really cool to see all the diagrams and kind of get a nice starting off point. And then if you wanted to use this for kids, I think it would be really nice because of all the illustrations. I guess you guys are seeing that backwards, but yeah, it's really, no, you're not? Okay.
We're seeing it right ways forwards.
Okay. But yeah, it's super beautiful. And she has other books. There's one on farms and there's one on food, I think, but all very beautiful books. And then the last one is The Wander Society by Carrie Smith. This one makes me feel like a kid because it's this mystery. So you start off and she finds this symbol in a book talking about like the Wander Society. So she kind of goes on a journey to find out who they are. But it's just, it gets you so excited. And the way they made it kind of looks like a kid's like Boy Scout book or Girl Scout book. And there's all these symbols, and then they give you a ton of activities at the back for like places to wander. It's all about wandering and just like noticing things. And yeah, there's lots of really cool little like crafts and stuff, how to make a belt pouch and a badge, and yeah, different kind of prompts for like tracking. And yeah, it's really cool. I love it.
That looks like.
And that's it.
Thank you, Ramona. Those look like some really fun books. I like the idea about the Wonder Society, like, and I love what you were saying about how it makes you feel like a kid. Something about just being able to be a kid and using our hands and getting into mischief and stuff like that. It makes you feel very alive. So thank you for those book recommendations. Those are awesome. Did anybody else want to share any books? Go for it, Lisa.
Hi guys. So I put these in the chat already. So I got them from the library. So this is Watercolor for Relaxation. And it just has like a bunch of little like things you can do. And it kind of walks you through like how you would draw it, like starting at the beginning. It just kind of walks you through like what it's actually wanting you to draw, you know, type of thing. So it's really fun. And then it has this really cool like one for doing pumpkin batch. It's really fun to read too. Like it just goes through everything. It's nice to just kind of be mindless a little bit. And then the other one is Draw from Nature. I really love this one because it's like when you're drawing, you're like drawing a picture, but it's actually like a picture within a picture, if you will. So like this. I just really like it. It's a lot of fun.
I love that about picture within a picture.
Yeah.
So sort of like when she chooses what to draw, the author, sorry, I didn't catch the author. Oh, um, I think,
Sorry, I had to go off really quick. My kids are walking in. Um, so it's by Helen Ashramprey. I put it in the
yeah,
in
awesome.
the Ashramprey. Ashramprey.
Okay, perfect. Very cool. I love that she is making up the images of the birds or whoever else with other images of.
With other images, yeah, it's really cool. It's neat how she does that. And then there's like a really cool one of like a duck family. It's really cute. It's really it's really pretty how it's like the leaves of it. It's really neat. A lot of fun. It's like art within art. That's on the front cover right there, that one.
So cool.
And it's a really cute read too. Like it talks about like, you know, like how and why she made it that way. So it's pretty neat. It's pretty fun.
That's awesome. Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, that gives me so many ideas of things to play with that would be fun. I bet that the kids must love that one too. Did anybody else have books that they wanted to share? I know I hadn't yet heard from. Oh, okay, I see Jim. Cool. Go for it, Jim.
Yeah, this is, I think, a really good book for educators. This is Edward Tufte, Tufte. And he's got a number of books out. This one's called Beautiful Evidence. Some of the other ones kind of, this is a rehash of some of his earlier books, I think. So he is just describing how to present evidence visually. And some of the topics are like kind of very nature journal oriented, mapped pictures. I really like this. I don't know how well you'll be able to see it, but this little map of downtown Kyoto showing how to get to a certain building and just the various ways that the information is presented. This chapter, lines and causal arrows. He contrasts this particular schematic of history of Cubism and abstract art, which he criticizes very heavily, and then kind of recommends this one, which is a lot more fun and actually presents the evidence that they're talking about better. So that's his whole thing, analyzing the way that evidence is presented. Another chapter called Words, Images, Numbers. So it's kind of, it's pretty wonky. It's kind of hard to adapt some of this exactly. I still haven't figured out how to kind of do it, but I really enjoy reading the book. This is a lot simpler. This is for more the art idea, drawing birds, John Busby. He's got some just really beautiful examples of bird art by himself and by others. It's kind of a good combination of how to and just examples, with maybe more of an emphasis on examples, like a little bit of anatomy, but more pretty pictures. But you know, a lot of them are really, really great. And let's see, there was one. Oh, this little exercise is so much fun. I've done this with kids in the class that I teach, making a little bird cutout to get the structure of the bird in your mind, but they're also fun after you make them to draw them. And so that's a great book. And this, again, just for inspiration, field notes on science and nature. This may be a little harder to get these days. I don't know if it ever came out in paperback. Might be a little pricey. Might find it in a library. Various journal excerpts and descriptions of their journaling from a lot of different people. Again, I think Ken Kaufman is in here. He has a chapter. Chapter is called Why Sketch. Some really nice examples of work. And Bernd Heinrich, if I'm pronouncing his name right, has a chapter in here. So anyway, yeah, really highly recommend this one.
Very cool. Thank you, Jim. It's really, I like that both you and Busby do the thing about the 3D birds, because then it's so much easier to wrap your brain around how to draw something if you've got something that is in between 3D and 2D. And so when you've got the paper, it is 2D made 3D, which is like, I don't know, but it just seems like that would be super duper helpful to be able to picture what's going on and how to convey that on paper. So that sounds like a really awesome tool that you use with the kiddos. That's really cool. And I think, yeah, drawing books are also awesome because that's us learning how to bring nature into our pages. So drawing books are wonderful too. Thank you, Jim. I'm seeing some book suggestions in the chat from Sarah and from Lydia as well. Sarah is mentioning Catherine May's Enchantment, which is a narrative nonfiction where she researches what becoming enchanted with the world through the awe of nature and awe of each other and our communities does, and has done in the past and could do for the future of society. That sounds lovely. It sounds lovely. And then we have True Nature by Barbara Bash that Lydia's found, a beautifully printed journal. And then I'm seeing From What Is to What If by Rob Hoskins, recommended by Sarah, who's a researcher and activist, helps communities imagine what could be through play, and passionate about helping communities be more resilient with food, education, protecting the environment, and not accepting the way things are going. And then I'm seeing Lisa's recommendation about Natural World by Amanda Wood and Mike Jolly, and Entangled Life by Merlin Sheldrake. Oh, these are such wonderful books. It's so wonderful seeing everybody's recommendations. I've got a few more to share, but then if people wanted to share more, we could. Also, if any of you have read any of the books that I'm about to hold up, please do chime in and say what you liked about the books too, because I'd love to hear what you all enjoy about these. So another one also by Claire Walker Leslie, one of my favorites by her, is The Curious Nature Guide. It's pretty similar to the Nature Connection, except that it's sort of like a in between activities and diagrams. I don't know. It's very, for me, it's very easy to read, which is something that I really like because she fills up the things with questions, like how does nature fit into your life? And then, maybe you feel the need to reconnect. And so she talks about things in a way that you're really meant to reflect on, which I found. Begin where you are. Really gentle and practical suggestions that I found. And so I thought that like looking through these might be good ideas for like, if you're thinking, oh, what's an activity I could do today with a session of people, then it could be fun to just even flip through and just put your hand in one of the pages and decide, maybe that day you're going to be looking at your home place with your class. Or maybe it's going to be about trees. Who lives in the trees around you. That could be a fun activity to do. So I like the way that with all of these, then she has such a variety of themes and a way of asking questions so that way you want to do the activities as well. Has anybody else read this book? Cool. I see Star has. Yeah, this is a good one. And then, oh, actually, do you have anything you'd want to add about this, Star?
No, I like all her books. Yeah, and the Nature Connection one, I think, is if you're looking for a good book for like early teens or into teens, that's a great one. I think everything she does is worth our time. Yeah. But that Nature Connection is great for older kids. Sometimes it's hard to find just the right level. Great book.
Definitely. And then there's one that I haven't gotten to read much, but I feel like this is going to be helpful once I get into it. There's a book that I just recently got called Urban Forest School. Has anybody read this one by chance? No? This one looks pretty interesting because I've been trying to think about ways to make nature more accessible to kids in the city. And this one is literally called Urban Forest School, Outdoor Adventures and Skills for City Kids, by Naomi Walmsley and Dan Westall. And this one looks good because, like, for example, there's a tent, but it's on the playground. And it talks about climate change. And talking about that in the cities, I think is important. Then we have in the Parker Garden. So sometimes there's different places that are named and different activities that you can do. You know, doing gardening work or, making little feeders or decorations. Not everything will be nature journaling, but that's okay because sometimes it's just getting your kids to love nature in the first place. And then if we go on further beyond Parker Garden, then we have, where is it? Around the city or town. It's not the page, but that's okay. Yeah, around the city or town, there might be something like cloud spotting that you can do. This one reminds me of a question that my friend Heather once asked, and she said, what does everybody have access to? Because people might live in such different environments that when we say, oh, go out into the forest and do this, there might be people who don't have access to the forest, whether because they live in a desert or because they live in a city and don't have transportation. And so my friend Heather was saying, what does everybody have access to? And one thing we came up with was the sky. And so that can sometimes be a way to connect with a lot of different people. And then, looking and seeing what nature does live in the city, especially because we might think that there is no nature in the city. Color chart nature matching. I think I've seen Melinda do this before, where you get colors and then you get a color and you say, okay, go find anything that matches this. What else? Let's see here. Home crafts. I think that this is the home crafts page. Oh, hey, look, it even has nature journaling in here. How convenient. Yeah, I haven't read this book yet, but I thought this looked like a really good read for trying to see ways to get urban kids more connected. A couple others I'll say. I'll mention these two just because these are two of the ones that Jack has been talking about for quite a while. This is one that he's mentioned more than once called Psychology of Intelligence Analysis, not specifically nature journal related, but more about critical thinking. And so looking at how we understand data, strategies for making analysis, questioning like how we use statistics and how we could use them better, that kind of thing. It's a pretty good book in terms of critical thinking. I recommend. And so this is one that you might see Jack mentioning a lot. He says it's a declassified CIA document. So they do this kind of psych training, I guess, with other people in the CIA. The other one that you might hear him mentioning a lot is The Power of Making Thinking Visible, which is about learning routines. And so that one is one where it's sort of trying to get kids to work better together and to address ideas in a meaningful way, and adults too. This works on adults as well. And so let me see here. Because they want to foster deeper learning. And so, sorry, I'm trying to find I have to just look at this because I can't do this backwards, sorry. Okay, here we go. So there's different thinking routines that this book has, and it separates it out into three parts. One of them is about engaging with other people. So having student connections. And so there's different ideas and about activities you can do with the students and when they're useful. Like, is it going to be about like you do this in a brainstorming part of a class? Do you do this in a question probing and listening? So I like that it will say when it's useful. The second one is about engaging with ideas. So it's a lot more about the content itself, I think. Um, and then our third one over here is engaging in action. So how to take the things that we're learning about and actually do something with it. So that's this book that Jack will talk about sometimes about the power of making thinking visible. And you might hear him talking about thinking routines or learning routines. So I wanted to mention those. Um, Another one I wanted to mention that I'm currently reading, because I am trying to get better at how to lead or organize workshops. I've been reading this one about designing and leading life-changing workshops. And this one has been really good. It's been talking about what it means to lead a life-changing workshop, or what it means to really reach people on their level instead of just kind of talking and I don't know. Um, it talks about workshops being transformational. It talks about how, what different kind of transformations there might exist, how to put things into practice. It has stories and ideas about how that is done, which is really good. And so this is another one that I recommend. And I know I've got more, but I wanted to give other people a chance to share. Go for it, Star.
I wanted to add to your urban theme, Yvea. So I had two books. Um, this little book, Sidewalk Flowers, is for children, and it's a very simple little book, but it's about a child in a city. And she finds, or he finds, because the gender is non-specific, a little sidewalk flower and ends up taking that and spreading the joy of that. So it is a children's book. I'm glad we have some lists for children's book because sometimes, I can use a book like this in an adult workshop just to talk about where we find nature and how we can learn to be more observant no matter what our setting. So this is one, and the other one is Nature Obscura, A City's Hidden Natural World by Kelly Brenner. And this is about Seattle, and it's similar theme of finding nature in urban settings. It's a very good book, so I recommend both of them. But I think, there's nature everywhere. So yeah, everybody can do this.
Could you show me the author for that one again? That one looks incredible.
Kelly Brenner,
Kelly Brenner.
Brenner.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is. It's very good.
I love it. I love kids' books for so many reasons. One of them because like it's accessible for all ages. One thing I love about them. If like there's a topic that I want to know something about, but it's too big and complicated to get into, if there's a kid's book on it, then it can be a really good intro point for just about anybody. And then another reason why I really love kids' books is because the art styles in all of them are so different that if you start to look at all of the different art styles, I personally find it becomes easier to let go of the inner critic about art if that's a problem for me that day, because then you can see such a diversity within all of the different children's book authors who are out there. So just something I recommend. Go for it, Jim.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just keep throwing things in periodically too, as time permits. Yeah, I'm just starting on Nature Obscura. I haven't really just got it a little while ago, but it seems great. This is Kathy Johnson's book, Artist Journal Workshop. And she actually has a book on drawing nature. But this is just a variety. This book is a variety of examples of other people's journals. It's pretty good for inspiring you to use different materials and different techniques. So there's just a ton of different examples in here. Not, and she does have a chapter on nature journaling too. This guy, Walter Ingalls Anderson, not very well known, but he's got a really different style of watercolor. I really love his work. Let's see if I can find really gets into the patterns of things. And this book, Eastern Forests, which is supposed to be like a generalized field guide to forests in the East. As a field guide, I think it's kind of useless. It's just so generalized. But what I like about it is it has these chapters on specific topics in nature, like succession in old fields, a chapter on milkweed ecology. Let's see if I can find the plate for that. I'm sorry, I'm a little disorganized here. Well, there's a plate that shows the various creatures that live on and around milkweed. Fungi, chapter on fungi, not just on identifying them, but on how they reproduce, how they interact with other things. And if anyone specifically, because we are doing books here, has a good introductory mycology book, maybe they could throw that out there. I know Entangled Life, but that seems maybe I do intend to look at that, but that seems maybe a little too far into the subject. I'm looking for something a little more basic, beginner level, because one of the people I'm going to be working with this coming year is wants to concentrate. That's one of her areas of concentration, and it's something that I know very little about.
That's an excellent question, Jim. In fact, yeah, does anybody happen to have any intro level fungus books that you'd recommend? And for that matter, are there other books that folks are wanting recommendations for? That could, that'd be really good to ask that. If are there any books that people are looking for recommendations on here? And I'll be right back. My doorbell just rang. I'm gonna let you all talk.
This is the National Audubon Society fungi book. So it's pretty basic, Jim. It's just called Pocket Guide Familiar Mushrooms. But it gives, the kind of information that probably as much as most of us need.
Okay.
So that's the one I use.
Thanks.
Sure.
This isn't fungi, Jim, but it's really beautiful. I bought this recently for a friend's little one, but I got myself a copy as well because I couldn't let it go. It's so lovely. It's called Rewild the World at Bedtime, and it's all different stories about different restoration projects, really, all around the world. And it's I think there are ones about fungus, there are ones about plants, there's ones about pandas, there's ones about
It's just like really positive news basically, but for children because it's just really gorgeous. Obviously it can get, I do worry about the kind of, obviously it's important to educate our little ones, but I do worry about the effect that kind of knowledge of climate change has on young minds, because I know it has a big effect on my mind. So I just thought that was nice because it is like a positive news kind of thing.
Oh, please keep going. What books were we talking about? That makes me happy.
I was just showing this is like a really positive story, like a book for children about kind of nature being restored in different areas around the world and how that's going. Just like, so it's like a positive, some positive input on about the climate. I just grabbed another pile, but I don't want to stop. I don't want to stop anyone else speaking. Should I, ooh. Should I go? Okay, just tell me to stop if I go too long. Okay. This one is really beautiful. Why Women Grow. It's not particularly a nature journal book, but it is gorgeous. Alice Vincent is a very gifted and sensitive writer. She's based in London, and she basically traveled around meeting women in their gardens and outside places of importance. And it's basically about everything other than gardening. It's about kind of being a woman and what that means and what connecting with the soil does for us as human beings. It's really good. This one's a really good one. This is quite a few years old now. Lucy Jones, she's a recovering alcoholic, and during a stay in hospital, she realized the importance of a peach tree outside her window and what happened to her brain when building work started happening and she couldn't see the peach tree anymore. And this led her on like a journey of understanding what being in the world does to us psychologically, being with nature does to us psychologically. So it's really good. She talks about everything from like how important it is for children to have time outside to how little time prisoners get outside and the importance of time outside in like rehabilitation situations. It's really good. This is like a this is a bit of a battered copy, so this is maybe a little bit obscure. It's quite heavy reading if you're not into it, but I think it's a really beautiful kind of like seminal nature writing. This man, I think people think that he may have had autism, but it's like a diagnosis after the fact. I'm not sure how ethical that is. But he basically is just deeply, deeply, deeply in love with peregrine falcons, and he writes about them with like just absolute beauty. It's just amazing. This one's got lots of sticky tape on the front. I don't know why. Sorry, I'm not very good at caring for my books. I scroll all over them. I know some people don't like that. It's called Towards Reenchantment. So it's basically Robert McFarlane's in there. Jay Griffiths is in there. She's from by me. She's a Welsh girl. She's good. Richard Maybe, Ian Sinclair, lots of big names, but basically they all get asked to go and visit places that are important to them and to just write a small, it's like a book of essays about their connection specifically to that place and how that place kind of relates to them as a person and helps them connect like on a wider level. This is really gorgeous. Amanda Thompson, she's now a professor, I think, at Glasgow University. This is about her. She's from an Afro-Caribbean background, but grown up in the countryside in Scotland. And it's about that finding, like putting roots down in a new place, particularly a place that, you know, may have been colonizing your home place, what that means and how to connect with native species in that place and how to like find yourself and find your voice and know you belong. It's really, really beautiful. Really good. This is really beautiful as well. Styles talking about moss. This is more a book about grief, and how connecting with the world and with other species can like help us through grief. It's really, it's more poetry than prose. It's really beautiful. This is classic, Wild Places, Robert McFarlane. It's like, it's no brainer. It's so good. I'm sure people will have been mentioning this before, but this is just so beautiful. Yeah, star, there we go. Yeah, cool. Okay, I'll stop there.
Could you both your books again? Could you both
Too long about books.
could you both hold up your the Lost Words books again? It just makes me really happy to see them both together. Oh, that's so so awesome. Thank you. Thank you for those, Sarah. Oh, go for it. Go for it, Ramona.
I did grab a few more books. These are more kind of nonfiction. So this one might be a little hard to get, but it's Bambi. So this is where the Disney movie came from. And yeah, it's just the story, but it just has so much about nature in it. And it gives you like cool facts actually as you read it about like, I think like, can't remember if it was like moose or something that came through, and they give you like these cool facts. But yeah, it's just really beautiful. And it's got lots of like little illustrations in it. So if you're just looking for something to kind of connect you to it and pull you into the story, talks about deer. It's really cool. That one I found at a thrift store by accident, so it might be a little harder to find. And then I have The Enchanted Places, which is basically a story of Christopher Robin and how he grew up with his father kind of writing about him and the Winnie the Pooh stories. So it's cool because he really didn't like Winnie the Pooh for a while. Like he resented his father for it, but it also goes into the world that they created and how he kind of came to terms with it. And yeah, beautiful book. And then the last one is fully fiction. If you like Beatrix Potter, this is like a mystery about her. So it's called The Tale of Hilltop Farm by Sarah Whittig Albert. So if you just like mysteries and you like Beatrix Potter, that's kind of a cool way. They have the animals kind of talking to each other, but then they also skip to humans as well. So really fun.
Very cool. Thank you, Ramona. Oh, go for it, Jim.
I just wanted to throw in that the Bambi, that's obviously an adaptation of the original. A couple of months ago in the New Yorker, there was an article, and I don't remember what exactly the angle was, but it was talking about the original Bambi, which is kind of a very different flavor from the Disney movie. And kind of going into the whole, as a New Yorker article will, like the sociology of how people at that time viewed nature. I wish I could remember more about it, but if I can ever look that up, I'll try and find some information on it. Just kind of brought that to mind.
That is interesting about how they viewed nature differently at that time.
Yeah, it was fairly harsh too. You know, a little more red in tooth and claw. You know, Bambi. I think Bambi's father wasn't very nice. You know, but I can't recall too much more about it. I don't remember the name of the actual author too. Have to look it up.
Very cool. Thank you, Jim.
I'm just going to duck down and.
No problem. Do y'all mind if I share a few more? I admit I don't know much about this one. If anybody here does, please tell me more. I know that it's one of Rebecca Rolnick's favorites. It's called Coyote's Guide. and she talks about this one a bunch. And it's by John Young, Ellen Haas, and Evan McGowan. It's Coyote's Guide to Connecting with Nature, and it seems to be a pretty interesting and dense book. Like it looks like it has got things like didactic lessons with fact-filled stories. They talk about nature cycles, um, natural cycles. They talk about indicators of awareness within students. Um, I don't know much about this book, but I'd be curious to know what other folks think about it, because I know that Rebecca talks about it, and how much she loves it. So here's one yeah. Um, here's one that I've only gotten to dip into a little bit, and I know that Billy Joe says that she knows. I think it's Jacob Rodenberg. Has anybody ever used this one? No, I don't really know it myself. I feel kind of. Oh, you do, Eleni, or are you waving goodbye?
No, I wanted to tell you about Coyote Guide.
Oh, excellent. Please do. Yes.
Yes, this is a wonderful, wonderful book that I'm reading kind of really slowly, but it's a delightful approach to getting people out into nature, especially city folks. And I just love this book. I'm reading it very slowly. I got it some time ago, probably because it was recommended by Rebecca.
That's awesome. So it's good. You saying it's good for helping city kids get out into nature more?
Yes, and it's a wonderful medicine for nature deficit disorder. I love that expression. That's on the back flap. It's an essential resource for anyone who wants to revive the sense of kinship with nature. And for those of us who grew up in cities or suburbs, and nature was always out there behind a fence. This is just a great book, and it's got a lot of different tabs on the side. It's hard for me my technology today is just a big bloody mess. But what's wonderful about this book is that all the chapters are coded and cross-coded, so you can jump around a lot. And each lesson has a how-to and all kinds of different activities you can do. Yeah, so you've got the book, Yvea, and it's just fantastic. Specific content, but you can, just Google it, and you'll also get a lot of terrific information about it. I found it really helpful in designing classes, and yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you, Eleni. That's way more helpful than, because like I said, I haven't read it, so that's way more helpful. So thank you for that. And speaking of that term that they say on the back, nature deficit disorder, here's another one that I know people recommend. One that I haven't gotten to read very much of, but I know that this one is really popular in the nature journal community, called Last Child in the Woods, Saving Our Children from Nature Deficit Disorder by Richard Louv. And I think that he's done a similar book called Vitamin N, but I'm not sure. I haven't gotten to read it yet, but I do know that he presented at Wild Wonder a few years back and was a very sweet, he seemed like a very sweet person. So I'm sure that his book is pretty awesome as well. Has anybody read this one? Last Child in the Woods? No, I haven't either. Not yet anyway.
And he wrote the introduction to this book. So that was how I found out about Richard Louv. Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. So yeah. I've heard a lot of people in the community recommending it. Another one that I've heard people recommending, another one, both Rebecca and I'm not sure if, yeah, Rebecca recommends this one, and I'm pretty sure that they mentioned Jack specifically in this book, is the Dyslexia Empowerment Plan. A blueprint for renewing your child's confidence and love of learning. And so I haven't gotten to read this one yet. I was thinking about reading it for some of my family members. But I've heard really, really good things about this book as well. Earlier we were talking also about autism spectrum, and I would love to, like, I'm going to be looking up all of those books that people mention about autism spectrum, for my family member. And so this is one I also wanted to recommend. I'm really loving what it says on the back here. It says, identify your child's profile, map your and help your child help him or herself and create community. So I love that they include community in this, that it's not just about having to do it all by yourself, that you are, you know, I'm hoping that this means this book's about how to find support. I have not gotten to read it yet, though. So unfortunately, a lot of my books are ones that I haven't read. My hope is that maybe this next month I'll have a little time to do that. So that'll be good. Well, yeah, I think I already mentioned, yeah, this one, Big Book of Nature Activities. And this one is, it talks about basic skills, first of all, basic skills of connecting with nature, and goes through some of those. And, you know, I like the kind of sketchy style of some of the art as well in the book. And then once it talks about basic skills for connecting, and traveling games and activities, it talks about key nature concepts for children to learn, which is neat. I like that it's structured that way. And then from there, it goes into the different seasons. So fall, the cooling season, and activities that you can do there and changes to look for. And also if unfortunately, like it's not, I don't think it talks as much about Europe, which is really unfortunate. I know we've got some folks in the house who are from Europe, and this is mostly North America based. They talk about fall by the region though, and it talks about an area of both Canada and North America, which is kind of neat. And yeah, winter, the great exhale, as they put it. So that's neat. And then spring, the greening season. Oh, it's so good to see you, Sarah. We love you. Thank you for all of the wonderful books.
Thanks, Sarah.
We'll see you again, my dear friend. And then we have summer, which is the crescendo. So this looks like it might be an interesting book to check out. If I do get to reading it, I'll let people know how I feel about it and how that goes. Or we could also ask Billy Joe if she's read it, because I know that, like I said, she says that she's either she knows him or she's been to a workshop with him. I'm not sure, but maybe she knows this book too. This one I wanted to introduce because it's one that Susan Beckhart recently got me. It's called The Observologist. And this one kind of has it has a Julia Rothman vibe to it, except it's by Giselle Clarkson. And what it is are handbook for mounting very small scientific experiments. And it just seems like such a great invitation, like what observology is. They talk about that a bit. They talk about random things that you can find in a damp corner, or I don't know, just it just has so many ideas and fun that it looks like. And yeah, it has very much a Julia Rothman vibe for me, the one who did Nature Anatomy. And so yeah, this is one I would recommend, just because it feels playful and happy. So yeah, wanted to recommend that one. Oh, it looks like so much fun. I love that you can imagine yourself actually in the flower with the bee right there. So there's that one. Just a few more. What I wanted to recommend if you are leading a class with adults is Nature Journaling for a Wildlife by Roseanne. I've only just gotten started on this one. The reason why I'm recommending this one is because there's a teacher up in Alaska, Kim McNett, that's her name. The teacher in Alaska, Kim, she said that, oh, sorry, I'll switch back. Observologist is by Giselle Clarkson. And I can also put it into the chat in just a bit too. So the reason why I was going to recommend this one is because when Kim McNett was first doing her nature journaling club, then she wanted to have some kind of a structure for herself and also for her participants, I believe. So that way they, she wouldn't have to worry too much about how to plan the lessons. And so I'm told that they went through this book, which gives you kind of 8 weeks of prompts. I think one prompt a week or something to that effect. But you have this 8-week thing. And so she and her club went through it, and apparently it gave them a really strong foundation, they felt, and they got kind of sad when there were no more prompts to follow. But I wanted to mention that one because I know that Kim McNett really used this book in as a facilitator, as a community facilitator. So I wanted to recommend that one. And then here are three that we might hear somewhat more about. I haven't, or at least we'll hear about like the project that it's based off of. I haven't gotten to read them, but because I buy way too many books, I got them. But I found the Project Wild books. So I've got a Project Wild curriculum guide, and which looks interesting. I know that that you are largely encouraged to go to the trainings. So maybe someday I'll follow up on that. But after hearing Jim and Rebecca and Billy Joe and Tara talk about Project Wild, I wanted to see what it was all about. So there's a Project Wild book. There is a Project Wet book. So this looks interesting too. Different activities. And then here's one that's interesting to me. There's Project Wild Aquatic. And I'm going to be curious to see like how these two books differ from each other, just for funsies. But yeah, there are some good books out there that are. Oh, okay, sorry. And then just maybe two more, one more. So we talked about Gathering Moss earlier. So then this is the other one, probably the one that a lot of people know about, called Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. That's about scientific knowledge and indigenous wisdom. But what I wanted to point out to, if you're working with students, is that there is a version for young adults. It's been somewhat remade a little bit, but like it's been adapted by Monique Gray Smith. Can't read backwards. But it's specifically for young adults. So I wanted to mention that one as well. So while this one doesn't seem to have a ton of illustrations in it, which that's fine, not all books will have the illustrations. This one seems to have more illustrations in it, and has kind of a different way of, framing things. So I just wanted to mention this one as well, for people who might want a version that's more adapted to kids. So yeah, why is the world so beautiful? I like that they have these quotes that are written like this, so that you really pay attention to them. Just the way that the information in here is presented. For me, it helps me figure out where I'm supposed to look, or what the priority idea is for the page. So yeah, wanted to make sure I mentioned that one, just so people will know about it. I'm sure I have more, but I wanted to give other folks like a chance to either ask for book recommendations or share more. Does anybody have any books? Oh, go for it, Star. Is it?
Here we go. I just had a couple more I wanted to share about. This one, the Nature Fix. When we were talking about grants, this book kind of celebrates programs that promote nature as a healing modality. I just love this book. If I was writing a grant, I'd be checking this book out. So it highlights programs. I won't remember all the countries, but Finland, Scotland, South Korea, Japan, the States, all around, that are doing innovative, fantastic things, interfacing humans in the natural world. So if you're looking for both an encouragement, I think it's an encouraging book, but also a book that could really help if you wanted to make a proposal for funding. So that's a great book. And the other one I wanted to mention is the Explorer's Sketchbooks, which you may be familiar with. I don't know, but I think I was looking for the number. Yeah, there's 70 sketchbooks highlighted in here. And it goes way back in history to early days of exploration in journal keeping. This is a really great book to show people in a workshop if you want to kind of talk about the history of nature journaling, plus to show a lot of different styles. You can really see the range of possibilities of journaling in this book, and it's beautifully presented. It's not a cheap book, but it's worth investing in, especially if you're teaching, I think. So that's all, Yvea.
Thank you. Those are wonderful. And thank you for the info about the nature fix, because I know that folks are going to be wanting to do more of the grants and proposals, and so that's a really good one to have in mind. And I think I remember when that one came out, some folks were talking about it on the Nature Journal Facebook club page, but I didn't know much more about it than just that people were really excited about it. So that's really, thank you for that. Thank you for that recommendation. Does anybody have any other books they'd either like to share or book recommendations that they're searching for? Jim, were you able to get some good recommendations on fungus, intro fungus? Oh, here, let me unmute you.
Forget, and then I forget to remute. Star had suggested her favorite, the Audubon Pocket Guide. I believe I wrote that down. I did have a couple more. I'll try and run through these quickly. This is another of my favorite artists, Charles Birchfield. And when he started out as a young artist, he did these very energetic, kind of wild things. And then he kind of, in his middle years, it was more, kind of drab, more realistic stuff. But when he got to be an older person, he went back, he took some of his early works and he cut pieces of paper and he expanded them. So actually, that's not the right page. Well, into these huge things, the original piece would be maybe a quarter of this somewhere in here, and then he built around it and made these gigantic expressionistic watercolor paintings. Just love him. Two classic drawing books, if people are interested in upping their drawing skills. The old edition of Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain, I think, is far better than the newer one. This has great information on using negative space and perspective, how to do perspective by citing. This is a classic book, Nicolaides, The Natural Way to Draw. It's broken up into a whole series of lessons that are like, work from this lesson for 20 minutes, do this lesson for, I don't know if anybody ever really goes through the whole schedule the way it's put in here. If you did, you would learn a lot, but a lot of things that we know about drawing, like blind contour and gesture drawing, were kind of, if not invented by Nicolaides, he certainly popularized them. And then I'll just throw in a shout out for a Sand County Almanac, which I have not read the whole thing, but this is an older classic. And I'm a firm believer in going backwards in time to older books, original sources.
Absolutely. I love that. And I love that when you go back to those original sources, then you can interpret them yourself by seeing what the original wording was and the original ideas were. Definitely all for that, as close to primary resources as you can.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
you see, oh, well, that's where he got that from. He took it from this guy,
Exactly. I love that. Plus I just think that's good research hygiene, is to go all the way back as much as you can. So very cool. Do y'all mind if I share one more? I'm going to share this one just because this is a subject that is near and dear to my heart. And so if anybody else has been similarly curious, I've been trying to find different accounts of people of different, like just a bunch of different backgrounds about their experiences with nature. And so this one is called Colors of Nature, about culture, identity, and the natural world. And it's written by people from a lot of different backgrounds in terms of, ethnicity and such. And so it's a series of essays, a whole bunch of them written by people like Jamaica Kincaid, um, Camille T. I don't know how to say her last name, whether it's Dungy or Dungy, Fred Arroyo, of course, Rob Kimmers in here, Bell Hooks, Gary Paul Mabhan, a whole bunch of different folks. And I find this to be a really good read because then it just reminds me of the diversity of different ways people experience nature and relate to nature or fear nature or have their own different associations. So this is one that is very near and dear to my heart. So I wanted to also just recommend that one. I'm just because I'm realizing that it's already 1:25 and it doesn't feel like it. It feels like it's only been 45 minutes, but it's been a whole hour and a half. Time flies when we're enjoying books. But I wanted to see, did anybody else have any other books to share or questions or recs that they're looking for? No? Did y'all have fun? I hope y'all are having fun. This has been so lovely.
Been awesome. Fantastic.
That makes me so happy. Raise your hand if you are officially now part of Nature Journaling Book Addicts Anonymous. Who else? Yeah, okay. Book Addicts Anonymous. We have met. We have had such fun today. If there's nothing else, then I guess that this is it for the summer sessions of the Educators Forum. Thank you to all of you for being so supportive and for being here these last, 7 weeks now. It's been lovely. We'll be off for maybe 3 weeks or so. I don't know. I can't count in my head about calendars. We'll be off for a few weeks, and then the final Wednesday of the month, we'll be back with Jack, Billy Joe, and Jim will be presenting, and I'm very excited. In the meantime, though, I'll be missing you all. Write me if you need anything. If you want to see any, like if the book list gets lost for you and you need the copy of the book list again, let me know. And if you've got more books to add, always do. It's really, really good to see all of you on this wonderful summer. So thank you.
Thank you, Yvea. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Yvea, everybody.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Everybody for the book recs.
Have a great break.
Thank
you. Certainly deserve it.
All of you all too. Oh, and also, one moment of silence for our wallets. Rest in peace, wallets, after these books. Anyways, y'all take good care. Bye now.